Let's look at the Legion from Dead by Daylight. The Legion consisted of 4 teenagers of the leader, Frank Morrison, and his followers Julie Kostenko, Susie Lavoie, and Joey. Frank Morrison was 19 years old and had little to show for it. He stopped attending school after being kicked off the basketball team for shoving a referee. But Frank showed a great deal of potential and was fully capable of lighting up a room full of people in spite of his troubled upbringing. At just 6 years of age, Frank was moved out of his native home in Calgary and began his long journey through a circuit of foster homes. And no matter what he did or how much he lashed out, he was still put through the system. His last move was 3 years prior when he was picked up by his foster dad, Clive Andrews, and drove 7 hours to the small town of Ormond in Alberta. And that 7-hour drive proved to be the longest time they had spent together, as Clive spent most of his time trading family checks for drinks at local bars. Ormond was a relatively small and stale place, a remote spot with just 6,000 inhabitants that had grey and nasty winters that lasted for the majority of the year. Frank did everything in his power to obtain a new foster family, but had changed his mind after he caught the attention of a young girl named Julie who believed she deserved more in life than what Ormond had to offer. And Frank, being an outsider, was her ticket out. So Frank would attend the parties that Julie threw where everyone was younger than him and easily impressed, which he liked. And it was at these parties that Frank met Joey, who was incredibly impulsive and liked to show off, as well as the naive Susie, who was Julie's best friend. And the four had become close friends and would hang out at the old abandoned ski lodge on Mount Ormond, which offered a nice retreat from the small town and the conformities of their everyday lives. But Frank had seen this as an opportunity to shape their lives and lack of experience and turn it into something powerful. And Frank would line up nights of rampage and tested his friends' limits and loyalties, with much of their weekend plans consisting of thievery and vandalism, and it came to the point where the trio would do whatever Frank asked of them. And one fateful evening, Frank had dared Joey to vandalize a store that had recently fired him. They easily snuck inside the store, which was supposed to be empty after closing hours, but a cleaner who was still there saw the group and got the drop on Julie. And after Frank took notice, a dark impulse took over, and without hesitation, he quickly ran up with his knife in hand and planted it in the cleaner's back. The others looked at Frank in disbelief and shock as he ordered them to finish the job. And one by one, each member took a turn puncturing the cleaner until he finally expired, and now they were all in this together. They quickly cleaned up the store as best they could and stashed the cleaner's body in the trunk of Joey's car and drove up to Mount Ormond. And as all four of them were digging through the muddy snow to dispose of the body, Frank took notice of something moving in the woods and broke off from the rest of the group to go investigate. But the fog had thickened around him so much to the point where he couldn't see where he was going. He tried retracing his steps and stumbled upon a trail and followed the sinister path as if he was being called by the darkness. Julie, Susie, and Joey finished digging but noticed that Frank was nowhere to be seen. That's when Julie noticed Frank's muddy footprints in the snow, and they followed them deeper and deeper into the woods. When the trio didn't return home that evening, their parents had assumed that they all must have run off with Frank somewhere. Many theories were put forward on what happened to them or where they ended up, but the mood in the town changed after a body was discovered near an abandoned lodge on Mount Ormond.
Patience. The hunt will begin soon enough. Look at what we have here. Good.
It wasn't supposed to be this way. This is just another test. I'm sure of it.